Okay, we did respectful for above the line, below the bottom line. And now we are going to move on to responsible. So when we think about the area of being responsible, and we are above the line, so this is what responsible students would do. What do we think of? Give me some examples. What would a responsible student do? Follow directions. Great. What else? Brandon.
Wear your ID.
Wear your ID. What else? What about you, Joey? What do you think? There are a lot of them. Lots and lots of them. Brandon, you got another one?
Yeah.
What do you got?
Doing schoolwork.
Doing your work. What responsible kids do, they do their work. What if you need something? What would be the right thing to do? Ask, right? Ask permission. Raise your hand. What if I walked into school and I have nothing with me, or I walked into my class and I have nothing with me? What does a responsible student do? So what would be the opposite of that?
I just want to know why on both computers,
Okay, that would be, but what would be the opposite of that? What would be the above the line part is to have one? Yeah, have your stuff, show up with your stuff. A responsible person has the stuff that they need.
I'll just share it, I'll send it to you.
What do we need for sure this year? Ms. Nelson asked. What? Well, mask for one, yep, so above the line, a responsible person has their mask on, definitely. Okay, the responsible person is definitely washing their hands. I even got good smelling soap for us so that we didn't have to use the stuff that's in the schools. What else? There's another big one that we have to have this year that you have to take it with you to school, back home, to school because of the A day, B day, hybrid days, and you have to have this to help you, Brandon. Your computer, you got it. So make sure you have your computer because if we don't have that on their home days, what's going to happen?
I was gonna say, not just computer. What does it need to be?
Charged. If we don't have that computer at home, it's going to be really hard for you to do your hybrid virtual learning without a computer.
Not every room you go to has a place where you can use your laptop while it's plugged in.
Then what about, we eat lunch in here, you guys know that, right? And usually about 3/4 of the way into this period, we ask if you want snacks. So if that's the case, what should you do if you choose to accept a snack or to eat your own and drop? Okay, so that's awesome for the respectful part, but after you're done, what should you do? Yeah, throw it away, pick up after yourself. It's really not fun for us, and we don't want to pick up after you guys, because you're all old enough to do it yourself, right? If you drop something on the floor, what should you do?
Here's a big one.
Pick it up.
Yesterday in gym, we went walking, and I picked 3 of these up floating in our yard. Kind of gross. But the Mr. Joe was out cutting grass, And I thought, well, I might as well pick these up because he's gonna have to get off the tractor. And they were blue ones like yours, Joey, so they're all throwaway ones, so they just threw them in our grass.
Yeah, and that's gross. Like, if we're supposed to be washing our hands and wearing our masks to keep ourselves safe and other people safe and germs, the last thing that other people want to do is be picking up somebody else's dirty mask, right? Yeah, yeah, definitely. So that's something to think about. Other ones for above the line for responsible.
Do you want the whole thing from Monday in there?
No, just the basic. Okay. Okay, yeah. That's what I want. What else can we think of? Well, the problem is they can't hear us unless we're right. Because I need to get that. How are you all sitting right now? You're all doing it right now. Yeah, body basics, right? Sitting appropriately in your chair, don't have your feet up on your desk, you're not standing on it, you're not sitting backwards, you're sitting appropriately and have appropriate body basics in your desk. Okay, so there's other ones, and if we think of them as we go, we'll add those. Let's move on to below the line. So below the line, I want to remind you, if we remember from when we worked on the responsible below the line, these are things that would, if you're someone who carries a chart, will get your points taken away. 2, if you don't carry a chart, these would be minor referrals that would be written outside of this classroom. Okay, so things that you lose points or you may get a minor referral for, but it's not the end of the world. Okay, it's not going to get you sent out of the room. So these are those things that you're going to get a reminder or you're going to get feedback. That could be from teachers in here. That could be from teachers in the hallway. That could be from teachers in your other classes. That could be from lunch staff. That could be from custodians to administration. It could be any staff would give you feedback for these below the line things. So give me an example of what those would be. Brandon.
Not being on time.
Not being on time. Okay, so your party. Another one, Joey. Okay, not having your ID. We know that no matter who it is that sees you in the hallway, if you don't have an ID, they're going to say, hey, where's your ID? That's just what they do. Okay, so wearing your hood. That is still a school rule that you can't have your hood up. Okay, especially now. I mean, it was a school rule for many years, but even more so now. Why? What if I had a hood up right now, Brandon? Can't even see who it is because I've got a mask that covers 3/4 of my face. And then if I had a hood on, you literally would only see my eyes. Okay? So if I wouldn't have my ID on, and I would have a hood up, that could potentially be scary for other people not being able to see who that person is. Okay? Joey, you got another one? Okay, walking out of class. Now I'm going to tell you something. Walking out of class is below the line. But if you walk out of class multiple times, you become what they call a habitual offender, meaning you continue to do the same thing over and over. So it would move from a below the line behavior to a below the bottom line behavior, okay? Because your job as a student is to be in class, right? So one time maybe you walk out because you're frustrated, okay? But if you're constantly doing that, then it becomes a bigger problem, which we'll talk about later in class. And then it would move to that below the bottom line because there would be a bigger consequence than just a minor referral for continually walking out of class. Okay? What else can we think of? Okay, perfect. 1, not listening to the teacher. Okay, so not following directions. Brandon. Okay, not having your mask on. I think you guys are noticing a lot of these below the line things are kind of the opposite of the above the line. What's another one? If a teacher gives you a direction, and some people struggle with this. Okay, but what would be below the bottom line, Joey?
You have a choice to
Okay, so no materials. Okay, so below the line for what I was just referring to. You know what, Brandon?
No.
Okay, not doing it the first time, let's go even one step further than that. Not doing it the first time and what? If I give you a direction and you're like, yeah, I don't really feel like it, or I was, or I'm trying, or whatever, and then we start going kind of back and forth, what is that called? Arguing, perfect. So below the line would be that arguing piece, okay? So if you are arguing with staff, that's below the line. You're given a direction, your job is to follow it. You argue, what usually happens? No? What happens? You're gonna lose more points by arguing, okay? So if you just accept and move on, you may lose 1 point. If you continue to argue, you're gonna lose multiple, okay? All right, what else do we have for that below the line, for the area of responsible? We're still working on the below the line. So these are the things that maybe someone would give you a redirection for. Okay, so I'll tell you this. We could put that under here because a pencil really is something small, right? But what is the real definition, or what is the real word of what you're saying? Stealing. Where would stealing fall? Below the line or below the bottom line? Below the bottom line, you're exactly right. Because stealing is something, we say it's a pencil, we're like, yeah, it's not that really a big deal. But if someone thinks that they can do something and then it becomes a habit, they may do it to where it's something that could cause a bigger problem. Maybe the first time it's a pencil, the next, bless you, the next time it's something else. So yes, stealing is definitely below the bottom line. You are correct. Joey. Okay, so we said leaving class, so it's the same thing, running, walking, whatever. This is what I want you to think. How about, what if you're in class, because some people struggle with this, not in here necessarily, but what if you're in class with your friends? What would a non-responsible student do that could be below the line? Brandon. Okay, that's one, not doing the work. What else? I'm not doing the work, I don't think so. Not doing the work. Okay, so any sort of inappropriate jokes, or we say sometimes jacking around, quit jacking around, okay? That means you and somebody else, you're distracting other people, okay? So that's below the line. Because it's not fair to everybody else in the classroom to not be able to learn because other people want to be messing around, okay? Because they're there to learn. And that should not be jeopardized because you or somebody else cannot control your own actions, or it's not fair to you if somebody else cannot control their own actions. Okay, so we got another one? Okay, so we don't have to be that specific, but here's the problem. Where does that fall? Below the line or below the bottom? We talked about this in respectful, right? So it can kind of share the same category, right? So if you say anything directed towards a person, we talked about this in depthly last week, that if you say anything inappropriate to an adult that is directed towards them, that's automatically below the bottom line, okay? Responsible people, we'll talk about with Joey stating that. Below the line would be that just inappropriate talk, conversation, verbal words. Okay. Okay, so it depends on, that's a good question. So he said, what would happen if you had your phone out in class when you aren't supposed to? Is that below the line or below the bottom line? Well, here's the thing. One, it depends on the classroom and the rules of that specific teacher. But here's a rule of thumb. Rule of thumb is what we say you just do just to keep yourself in the clear. If you do not need your phone out or have not been given permission to have it out for whatever topic you're working on or homework, leave it or put away. Then you don't even have the opportunity to get yourself in trouble, right? There may be a time when a teacher says, hey, you guys can get your phones out for the last 5 minutes if you have your work done. In that case, you have permission, so that's okay. Does that make sense? Otherwise, just to be safe, just put it away when you're walking in. You need to take that down, it's not where it goes. Thank you. Yes,
I have a student I go to class with, and she has been asking every time she asks, she just asks, can I take a picture of that real quick? And that's completely appropriate to do. She asks first, she takes a picture, she puts it face down next to her, and leaves it there while she does the rest of her work.
yep, that's a great example. So if you were someone who, it's easier for you to take a picture of something instead of taking those notes, that's definitely a time to ask if you can take it out to take the picture. And 9 times out of 10, I would say probably 99% of people would be like, yeah, go ahead. Because why would you want to write a ton of notes and all this stuff when you don't need to? Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right, what else do we got? Anything else anybody can think of? There's a couple in regards to the hallway, which we didn't even add for above the line here. What about in the hallway for above the line or below the line in the area of responsible? Brandon? Okay, stay on the right side. That's above the line, right? What else? Okay, safely walking down the stairs, keyword, walking. Same with the hallway, walking in the hallway. What if you see your friend and they're, I don't know, a few feet ahead of you in the hallway, what should you do? What, Brandon? Not talk if it's something you have to yell to get their attention. You can talk to them if you're close enough.
What would you be doing to a friend that's within the hall? He's at the end of the hall and you want his attention, you're not gonna say, hey.
Okay, perfect. So you're gonna wait till he comes closer and you're not gonna yell.
I was trying to get you to say yeah. Sorry.
Okay, so no yelling. So right side, no yelling, so you have an appropriate voice tone. So then flip that, what would be below the line for that area? Perfect. So you'll be doing the things that are the opposite of that. You would be running. You wouldn't be on the right side. You would be yelling down the hallway. Those are all things that we shouldn't be doing because they are below the line in that area of responsibility. All right, what else we got? Brandon, you got another one?
I read it twice and then I remember teaching you how to
Okay, so, yeah, just not following any directions. Oh, she's got following the directions right now, that part, okay, perfect. All right, now let's think of the other things that would be below the bottom line. So these are things, we talked about the below the line is the stuff that's going to get you points taken away, minor referrals. Below the bottom line are things that are gonna get you major referrals, potentially reboot room time. They would get you potentially suspended. They could get charges pressed against you for this area of responsible. So what do you think those are? Okay, screaming, yelling, throwing stuff. Now, that would get you potentially sent to reboot.
What are you screaming?
Brandon,
Walking out the front door.
walking out, okay? Leaving the designated area. 2 reasons. 1, our number 1 job is to what? As staff in the building, what, Brandon? Keep you safe. Can we keep you safe if we aren't sure where you're at or what you're doing? Even if I have eyes on you, can I keep you safe if I'm here and you're way across the field? No, it can take a split second for something to happen. And all of us adults, we may be fast, but we're not that fast, okay? So we may not be able to get to you fast enough. So that is definitely those below the line or below the bottom line. Brandon, you got another one? Fighting someone. Any sort of physical altercation is below the bottom line. 1, unsafe for both of you. 2, you can have charges pressed against you for that, right? So if you physically fight with somebody, you can get charges pressed against you. Okay? What else we got? Okay, so that's a fine line, and we're gonna talk more extensively about those things in social skills as time goes on. But what I want you to think about is, he said, if I hit you first, if someone hits me first, doesn't that give me the right? Two wrongs don't make a right for one. Brandon, do you have something to add to that? Okay. Two wrongs don't make a right for one. And also, sometimes people will do things to get your attention or to get you to react. Okay? So we'll dive more in depth into that topic because we talk about that quite a bit. And kind of talk about what would be the best decision for you all. Okay? All right, Brandon, you got another one? Okay, any sort, that's a good one. Any sort, we're going to add to that one too, Brandon. So, okay, perfect. Yep. So any sort of drugs, weapons, anything that should not be at school, that is not responsible behavior. That's definitely below the bottom line. I will tell you, you bring anything inappropriate to school and it is founded, you will have charges. You just will. That goes from anything from drugs to a knife to, we've had, yep, you can get in trouble for, literally, you're exactly right. We've had students in the past, they thought it was a joke and brought something, it looks like a weapon or it was like a pellet gun. Like a pellet with those little plastic pellets, but it looks real for one, and for two, you can hurt somebody with that. Okay? All right, so we're not going to have a discussion about that. So what else do we got for below the bottom line? Joey? Nope. Nope. I just said no. So no stories. Thank you, though. Okay. So what else for below the bottom line? In regards to fighting, what's something else we can talk about? Here, I'll give you an example. We got two, one that needs to go here and one that needs to go here. It kind of just popped into my head because I see that it isn't on there.
Are they big?
So in the below the bottom line, let's just say, sometimes people do this with their friends. And they do this with their friends because they think it's funny, okay? And, we're friends and we're joking around and we're both laughing and whatever, and we do this back and forth to each other, but eventually you stop liking it, okay? And I still continue to do it because you think that it's funny. I think that it's funny, and I thought that you thought it was funny too, but really you don't. But it's hard for you to say that because you were friends and you don't want me to be upset, or you don't want to say that it bugs you. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so it's a form of messing around. It starts with the T. This would be the one that goes below the line. Teasing, perfect. Thank you. Okay, now when we go to the below the bottom line, in that this is a farther extension of teasing that is completely unacceptable at any time. It starts with the B. Joey. Bullying. Okay, so responsible person, below the line, if you're not being responsible, you may be teasing people, even if you're their friends. That's still not okay. Okay? And then obviously that below the bottom line one is that bullying, because that is completely unacceptable. Okay? All right. Other ones we can think of. For below the bottom line, yep. That one? Oh, perfect. That's a great one. I didn't even have to get to it. So below the bottom line for responsible is vandalism. Okay? Vandalizing other people's property, the school property. Okay, any of those things. Is there anybody that wants a snack tonight? Because it's that time. I don't need, it's just a yes or no, or raise your hand, and Mrs. Helming will come ask you what you want. You don't want anything? Okay. Any other ones we can think of? Really got another one? don't worry.
So we could just keep that in there, even though other prices, and then clean it up.
Okay, what else do we got? You guys can go out and eat your snacks while we're talking, just.
So Joey, do you need a new bag?
Brandon has one. Brandon, what do you have?
Randy, you got another one? Okay, walking off campus. That goes back to that same one of walking out of the building. We can't keep the same, like, if we're outside and we're doing something for PE or we're having a math break. Yep, so, yeah, below the bottom line is taking off masks and not staying 6 feet away from each other. So, like, right now, you know, we're having our snack, you guys are 6 feet apart, and really you're not talking because you should be eating, obviously. So walking off the campus, that's one of those that are safe walking out of the building. But there are times when we are going to be outside, okay? We're going to be outside because of PE. We're going to be outside for math breaks. We're going to be outside just to get some fresh air. But here's the thing. We cannot do that if people are not displaying safe behavior outside. So if you are someone who chooses to leave campus, it is our responsibility to keep you safe. So that's telling us that you're not able to do that safely, and we have to work through those issues so that you can then do that, and we know that we can keep you safe. Okay? Okay, what else we got? I think we've had quite a few of them. I don't know that there's. Yep, and we haven't just the breathing person. Oh, okay. So I probably didn't. There's one more. What you got? Okay. Okay, so yeah, any disrespect directed towards an adult. So here's the thing that we can think of. I know some of you say, well, I don't know the person. It doesn't matter. Okay? So if somebody in the hallway gives you a direction or they ask you to do something, you still need to follow the direction even if you don't have a relationship with them. Okay? And I know that's really hard, and we talk about that because if you don't have a relationship with someone, you feel like, why do I have to listen to them? But we have to think about, as you get older and you have a job, because some of you are getting to that age where you're going to have a job pretty soon, you can't just ignore what your boss tells you or the person who's, you know, giving you the direction at your job. If you just ignore them, regardless, because you're not going to know them right away, you're not going to have a relationship with them, but it's still going to be your job to follow those expectations of what they tell you, okay? So you have to be mindful of that. All of these skills are helping you to get yourself ready for the real world, okay? And for high school. It looks a lot different in high school than it does here, okay? All right, questions about that? All right, so that is our above the line, below the bottom line for responsible. These will be going up on posters on the wall. Mrs. Nelson's working on that, and we'll have them up so that we can always refer to that. So for those of you who are younger, or you are sixth graders, this is potentially new to you, so you have to think, we're going to be referring to this often. So someone will say, a staff may say, you know, oh, that's below the bottom line, or you need to go down the hall, or oh, that's below the line, please fix it. Okay? So those are some of the wording that's going to be used so that you can remember that. And you can help, it'll almost become a habit for you to do these things that are above the line. Okay? All right, we are going to move on here shortly